sort of an organelle. Remember, when you're saying organelle, an organelle could involve it. What is it? What is an organelle? An organelle is a chloroplast. An organelle is a mitochondria. So when you take an organelle, when you take a chloroplast or a mitochondria, it's an organelle. That is, it's smaller than an organ. When you take cell as a basic unit of life, you know the dimensions of a cell. Anything which is subcellular is called an organelle. Remember, anything which is subcellular. Anything which is subcellular, smaller than the cell, is called an organelle. So we are talking about properties of cellular organelles. We are looking first into cells. We are looking into subcellular units. We are looking into organelles. As in organelles, we are taking two important examples of chloroplasts and also the sort of a mitochondria. So, like, if you got any questions, you can always ask me. So you got chloroplasts as well as again you got the mitochondria, which are organelles, and they have some basic properties, as you already know. Like, I think you already have studied through. You exactly know that whenever you got the chloroplasts, they are involved in photosynthesis. And you know, mitochondria are involved primarily in cellular respiration. They are involved in cellular respiration. So you have the entire process of photosynthesis, the entire process of respiration going about in chloroplast and mitochondria. Now, though we know that there are some basic properties. The properties of these, like what you have read regarding what are chloroplasts, how it is membrane bound, it's made up of a grana, it's made up of a thylakoid, it's got a stroma, it's got light reactions, it's got dark reactions. And similarly, when you take mitochondria, mitochondria has got an outer membrane, it's got an inner membrane, it's got a stroma. And you know, it goes through, you got the Krebs cycle and you got the electron transport system, or you got what is called as oxidative phosphorylation going through in the mitochondria. These are the basic functions of cell organelles. Now it says that the properties of these particular things, whatever I just mentioned, are not present in the molecular constituents of the organelle. Now let's look at what do you understand by molecular constituents of an organelle. Supposing we take the chloroplast. Think we have got the chloroplast as an example. Okay, we got the chloroplast, which is a subcellular organelle. Okay, I'll just this more easier if we go separately like this. Okay, we are talking about we are dealing with relation to the chloroplast. Remember, it's very easy, and you know, chloroplast is a sort of it's an organelle. What does the chloroplast have? The chloroplast has got chlorophyll pigments. Remember, it's got chlorophyll pigments. It's got chlorophyll A, it's got chlorophyll B, it's got chlorophyll C, it's got D and E. And later on, it has also got keratins. And it has also got xanthophyll. It has also got xanthophylls. So these are basically the pigments which are primarily present in the chloroplast. Now, just supposing you know the molecular structure of chlorophyll. Supposing you think you just know the molecular structure of chlorophyll. We are talking about the molecular constituents. The molecule, chlorophyll molecule, we would say that chlorophyll is a very important molecule. And we are talking about the molecular structure of chlorophyll. How can the molecular structure of chlorophyll, they say, okay, I can do, once you know the molecular structure, do you think you can do photosynthesis? No. So the properties of cell organelles, which is a larger part, is very much different from the molecular constituents of the organelles. The molecular constituent could be here in the case of chloroplast, it could be chlorophyll. In the case of the mitochondria, it could be any component of the electron transport system. It could be cytochrome F, it could be cytochrome B. Remember, it could be cytochrome F, it could be cytochrome B6, anything related to the sort of mitochondria and related to the sort of an electron transport system. So taking one thing, we can't think that that is the most important thing. Are you understanding this? Supposing you just say, okay, you know, you have a good day. You just say, okay, everything what the chloroplast has got is not normally present. Just by taking chlorophyll, you can't say that it can do photosynthesis. So just by picking a small block, you can't think that everything happens within that. So this sort of a thing. So what happens here is what are we missing? What I'm trying to tell to you, or what is the theme of whatever I'm trying to tell to you is, in simple, what I'm trying to say is A plus B does not make C plus D in biology. When you take biology, I think it's the wrong ink we are trying. Okay. We just say, look here, A plus B does not make C plus D in biology. Maybe it's good in chemistry, maybe it's good in physics, but in biology, it's it's very complex. So what are we talking about? We are talking about within the sort of within the organelles, we are looking in terms of lot of complex, remember this word, very, very important. Within it, we have got complex molecular, we are looking at molecular interactions. So we are talking very, very importantly on interactions. Supposing instead of A, you got A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. Instead of B, we got B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6. Instead of C, we got C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. And all of these will interact among themselves. So molecular interaction is the key. Remember that. What is the key for life is the molecular interactions, not just simply taking the molecules. Supposing they ask you these questions many times, you have a chloroplast, someone gives you chlorophyll, someone gives you protein, someone gives you the DNA, someone gives you the thylakoid, someone gives you the stroma, you put them all together, does it function? It won't function. So what functions primarily within an organelle are the molecules. Point number one are the molecules. And more importantly, what functions among the molecules is a sort of a molecular interactions. Remember, that is very, very important. Primarily are the sort of molecular interactions. Kya what time ho gaya kya? Huh? Okay. So we have got primarily what is called as molecular interactions. Remember that. So molecular interactions, the word interaction is very, very important here. What is the key of this? What is it that I'm trying to tell you is, whenever you take biology, there are a lot of interactions. So this is a very important statement wherein you got to remember whatever I just told you about chloroplast, mitochondria, and organelles. Then again, let's come to the second part. The second part of the statement says, they arise by molecular interactions. Remember, all things come due to molecular interactions. And also, sometimes what happens is, there is also cell interactions. So, we are talking in terms of interactions. Interactions means dynamics. So, interactions can occur where? Between molecules to molecules. Remember this. Between molecules to molecules. And interactions can also occur between cells to cells. Cells to cells. So just by understanding, okay, there are molecular interactions, you're missing the point. Cell to cell interactions, what is an example of cell to cell interactions? You got the C4 pathway, remember? You got the C4 pathway. So what happens in the C4 pathway? Primarily, there is a sort of a relationship between the bundle sheet cells and maybe the sort of a what do you call it? You got the mesophyll cell chloroplast and the bundle sheet cell chloroplast, cell to cell. Between the epidermis, between the stroma and the guard cells, between the xylem and between the phloem, between the parenchyma and between the collenchyma, that is cell to cell interactions. And also, we also have molecule to molecule interactions. So there are molecular interactions, there are cellular interactions, thereby a cell is very, very dynamic. Remember this is a very important point, that a cell is dynamic. And within the cell, what happens is there are a lot of physiochemical reactions. There are a lot of physiochemical reactions. Please understand, these are all the basics for biology. If you got these concepts straight in your head, any competitive examination is going to be terribly easy for you. You can just walk through a particular sort of a competition and exactly know how to handle any objective. So if you belong to the sort of a tribe who is by hearting, without knowing the meanings of the concepts, you're missing the trees for the woods. Remember that. That's very, very important. You got to be very clear on what you want to, whatever you're learning on a day-to-day basis. So we are on a big sort of a trip. Primarily what happens is we got a lot of time and you are learning very, very slowly. Okay. Now let's come to, like I told you, primarily what happens is we have defining features of life. Remember, we're still on that 1.1 or maybe on the second and the third page of your sort of an NCERT textbook. And we are looking at the chapter called what is called living. And even those of you who have recently joined up, you've just taken the PowerPoint slides, you can just look through that. You're getting across a sort of a concept very easily. Or you can basically even interact in the sort of a classroom as classes go on. So very, very important here is that we have defining properties. So under the defining properties, remember, we had primarily metabolism, we had cell, we had metabolism, we had consciousness, and even there you can put interactions. That's a defining properties. Interactions with what? Between the cell and the cell. Interactions between molecule and a molecule. Interactions between the life forms and the environment. Remember, it's interactions. This is very, very important. Interactions are very, very important. Barring these, supposing you take the defining characters and put them aside. Whenever you read biology, you start with what are called as the 7 characteristics of life. We are starting with relation to what are called the 7 characteristics of life. All life forms, wherever you find on planet Earth. Supposing someone says, okay, get me life from the biosphere. Biosphere is a place where all life exists, isn't it? Biosphere is a place where all life exists. So when you take the sort of a biosphere, from the biosphere, what we are understanding is, in the biosphere, there are primarily what happens is there are 7 important characters, which are basically called the characteristic features of life. So defining features of life are something else. Characteristic features of life are the common features. Whether you take a bacteria, whether you take a plant, whether you take an animal, whether you take a microbe, whether you take a human cell, all the cells, all of them are in a particular sort of an order. Remember this? This is very important. Life is primarily order out of disorder. Primarily it's order. There is a particular pattern, there's a particular pathway, there's a particular metabolism, there are particular properties of life. That is one of the reasons for, because of the order, that is one of the reasons for biodiversity. Please understand what we are reading here. What is the approach which you are taking is, we are taking the approach of science. We are not going into mega fashionable type of talking. We are cutting down to exactly looking at what are the basics of science. What is the basic of the particular subject? That is very, very important for primary, for cracking out any particular sort of a, when you're going out somewhere with relation to learning, how is it that your learning curve increases on a day-to-day basis? That's what it means. So order is very, very important. We are talking in terms of molecular order, cell order, and all that. Next, when you take life, all life shows evolutions and adaptations. All cells primarily evolve in time. So that means to say, you're talking in terms of molecular evolution. You're talking about how DNA has evolved, how RNA has evolved, how proteins have evolved, how amino acids have evolved, how basic enzymes have evolved in time and space. We are talking about evolution and adaptation. How is the DNA adapted? Is the DNA of 1953 the same, just as it's conserved, but how is it in 2020? How is it in 2021? So we are looking in terms of living organisms. How is a bacteria, which was in the 18th century? How is it now? Now, how do our body cells respond to something called a sort of a COVID infection? What's happening? How does it primarily adapt to a sort of a new infection, to a new strain? We are talking in terms of adaptations, and we are talking in terms of evolutions and order. So evolution and adaptation is a very common theme for all living organisms. Next, all living organisms respond to external stimuli. This is a very important thing. We respond to external stimuli, any sort of a change in the physical environment, in the chemical environment, or in the biological environment. So when we say physical, UV radiations, ultraviolet radiation, sound, high sound, when you when you say primary chemical, when you say it is, how does it respond to chemistry? Acidity, alkalinity, pH. You know, alkaline bacteria, you know, acidophilic bacteria, you know, alkalophilic bacteria. All these primarily are responses. They are adaptations of bacteria to different things. How do the sort of a bacteria survive under high salt water? How do some bacteria survive under very cold conditions, minus? How do bacteria survive under the hottest of the springs? Please understand, while you're reading biology, you need to primarily be very enthusiastic at one side. At the same time, you got to exactly know what is the inner meaning or what is the scientific concept behind that particular sort of thing which you're trying to learn. It's not just mugging out from 10,000 books or 100 books. If you got your concepts clear, you can crack any objective bit on earth. That's the sort of a basic theme which I'm trying to tell you. So here, what happens is they respond to external stimuli. Very, very important is regulation. Now, remember, what do you mean by regulation? When I say regulation, all of you, I know, you understand this as regulation. The other neat word for regulation is, it is also called as homeostasis. It is also called as homeostasis. Any cell undergoes regulation, that is self-regulation. Remember, self-regulation. What could be an example of a molecular regulation? Anybody? Can you tell? What is a molecular regulation? Molecular regulation, primarily, you know, primarily it's called as competitive inhibition. It's called as competitive inhibition. Self-regulation, you know, if something goes like you think you've got a biochemical process wherein A goes to form B, B goes to form C, C goes to form D. D will again come back and it will monitor A. You got competitive inhibition, you got feedback inhibition, which is called as homeostasis. So homeostasis is very much important. It is self-regulatory, which is a very important property of all living organisms. Again, we come to, when you take all biological properties, every living organism does energy processing. Does energy processing. What do you mean by energy processing? We are talking in terms of the world's, the best compound on planet Earth, which is called as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. We are dealing with relation to adenosine triphosphate. So when you take adenosine triphosphate, when you take ATP, adenosine triphosphate, it's basically, it helps in primary energy processing. So entire energy which the plant gets is primarily from ATP. So that's a very important thing. And again, when you take living organisms, most of them grow and they also show development. Growth and development are synonymous. Growth and development are synonymous. It may look, okay, growth means development, fine, okay. But at a later period of time, growth goes into a little bit on development and differentiation. So in the first stages, in the first year, you learn a little bit on growth, and later on, you know about more on development. And look, all of these are primarily controlled by the sort of a DNA. It's controlled by the genes. So we have developmental biology as a separate sort of a field of study. And again, reproduction is very, very important. When you say reproduction, we are talking about self-replication. Remember, self-replication without error. That's very important. Self-replication without error. So reproduction, growth and development, energy processing, regulation, responding to external stimuli, and evolution and adaptation and order are the 7 important characteristic features of life. There are the 7 very important features of life. Primarily, this is a very important thing that you've got to primarily understand as you go by with relation to your sort of a readings. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait a bit. So, what I was trying to tell to you is, Yeah. We were on this particular slide, if you remember right, in the beginning. All living organisms, present, past, and future, share a common genetic material to varying extent. And we say that biology is a story of life on Earth and evolution. Then we said a patient in coma, what happens to the patient in coma? Primarily has got no consciousness, bioneural networking doesn't exist, and humans are self-conscious, but the exception is the patients in coma. Then we had come to primarily learning what exactly is the features of the chloroplast and the mitochondria. You also learned what are meant by organelles. And within the organelles, you know, the molecular constituent need not necessarily be the properties of cell organelles, and the properties of the molecular constituents are very, very different from each other. And again, next one, we also said even tissues are not the properties of the constituent cells. So this is a very, very important thing. I think we missed out this particular slide while today. I'll just explain to you this. That's what I was just thinking, where did we have a miss? Now, take the case of the epidermal tissue system. If you take epidermis, all of you know the epidermal tissue system. In plant anatomy. So when you take the properties of the tissues, what are the properties of the epidermal tissues? You primarily have got the stomata. Then you got the cuticle. Then you got the guard cells. Then you got the subsidiary cells. So all these are the basic cells which go to form the sort of an epidermal tissue system. The property of the stomata, we are talking about the property of the stomata, are not present in the constituent cells. The property of the stomata is not present in the constituent cells of the epidermis. The properties of the cuticle are different. The properties of the stomata are different. The properties of the guard cells are different. But all of them, when they put together, it functions like a sort of an epidermal tissue system. So the properties of an epidermal tissue system are not the properties of the constituent cells like stomata, cuticle, and guard cells. Please try to understand where primarily you could be missing. I mean, you could be missing a lot of things. Even so, when you're reading on something, it's very, very important that how you read it, what is the inner meaning, what is the knowledge about it, how do you understand the sort of a concept, and how do you relate that particular concept to the sort of a chapter? That's very important. So it's just like, okay, you know what we do primarily is, many times when you're reading your sort of a chapters in biology, it is just like, okay, you're taking a wall and you're breaking it brick by brick and you're doing a lot of analysis. But very sadly, we do not know how to put the bricks back and get the sort of an idea of what is happening. The people, primarily the students who primarily do analysis, that is breaking down and putting all the things together, which is called a synthesis, those are the people who know how to crack a sort of an examination, because analysis and synthesis are two sides of science. And science primarily believes in scientific analysis and scientific synthesis. Analysis is too deep, like it keeps on breaking and you miss the main frame. And synthesis is putting all the bricks together and primarily trying to think about it. So this is very, very important. So properties of tissues are not present in those of the constituent cells. That was a thing which we missed out. So we just caught it up. That's why I was just thinking maybe somewhere it could go somewhere, you know. How does it go? Oops. We are still on this. How does it go? Yeah. So then we learned about what are called as molecular interactions of cell due to, and what do you mean by emergent properties? Now look here, this is very important. Like, you know, that means what were we talking about? We were talking about molecular interactions, remember? We were talking in terms of molecular interactions. So whenever there are molecular interactions, there are some new properties. And these new properties are called as emergent properties. They are called as emergent properties. Like imagine that what happens is there is an electron flow from say cytochrome B6 to cytochrome F. Whenever there's an electron flow, there could be the formation of any particular sort of a new molecule. And thereby what happens is we get what are called newer properties. We get newer properties which are primarily called as emergent properties. So this is again very, very important. Like so how do you get emergent properties? Emergence, that is the development of newer properties on the sort of a hierarchical scale. Whenever you're at the molecular scale, see what happens. What do you mean by hierarchical scales? You got molecules, you got primary molecules, then you got cells, then you got tissues, you got tissue systems, then you got organs, then you got organ systems, then you got the entire plants, and plants primarily go to form organisms, and you got organisms go to form primarily communities, and communities you got populations, and populations you got biomes, and then you got biosphere. So as you look from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top, as you keep on going, at every particular level, there are newer properties getting formed. That's very, very important for you to understand. We have newer properties, and all these newer properties are because of molecular interactions. Take a simple case like, we have been learning alphabets on the blackboard. We have been learning languages on the computer, and at the next level, you're going to learn a lot of things on artificial intelligence. So what happens? Artificial intelligence is an emergent property, which connects a lot of human beings. So imagine that what happens is we are having a lot of molecular interactions go on in our brain cells. A lot of molecular interactions go on in our brain cells, and primarily because of these molecular interactions, what happens is our thinking gets changed. It becomes different. I'm not saying overnight you go mad, not like that. What happens is in the course of time, there are some very good properties which come in, and these particular properties will build in newer ways of adaptation of the life molecule and life processing. So it's very, very important that what happens is you should know what is meant by emergence or what is meant by newer properties, because this is not very clearly given in most of the books. And you do not know exactly what is meant by molecular interactions. So this is again a sort of a point. So every time what you do is you take your sort of a textbook, you look at all these particular statements, whatever I'm just marked it, please try to take a sort of a highlighter pen and try to mark it out on your sort of in your notes. And on each of these particular statements, try to exactly know which are the most important sort of points, which are all the sort of learning points, or which are all the places from where you can probably, get the sort of questions on. Then we had gone into all of these, Now, among all of these, which is the best property? Among the 7 characters, you got order, evolution, adaptation, responding to external stimuli, regulation, energy processing, growth development, reproduction, and self-reproduction, which is very, very important. What do you think, participants? Any idea? Anybody can call in? No? Which is the best property? I think energy processing is the best property. See, you have a cell. Look here, this is quite easy. You have a cell. In a cell, there are multiple inputs. There are multiple outputs. And within a cell, there is a lot of processing. How easy it is. There is a lot of processing of genetic information. A lot of processing of genetic information occurs. So here this is in, and through this what happens is there's a lot of processing which occurs, and ultimately you get it out. So primarily for all this, That is why you say, what happens is, for all this, what is required primarily is you require a sort of an ATP. You require ATP, which is called the energy currency of the cell. So primarily, dear students, what happens is, get real with relation to learning. Learning is not mugging. Remember that. Please understand this. Learning is not mugging. Learning is understanding. And once you understand, you give time. Like you got to give time to anything, like you take a concept, like you take basically what we have come till here is, we have just finished off on what are life characters, what are defining features, and we have taken some basic concepts related to life, like how it's all linked together, some phrases and statements from your NCERT textbook related to that particular chapter, from which maybe questions can come. And we have cracked every particular bit till now, including, supposing we take the concept of reproduction. Remember, in the case of reproduction, reproduction can also occur asexually. Asexually by means of spores in the case of fungi, and also by means of fragmentation in the case of bacteria, in the case of fragmentation in the case of primarily the protonym of moss. And it can also occur by budding in the case of yeast. So these are some other things which you're going to primarily know from your textbook. This is some exception, like, okay, reproduction can also include asexual reproduction. So I think primarily we have connected all the dots of your sort of a textbook. That's very important. We have connected, and at the same time, we are also trying to look in terms of what sort of questions can primarily come from this particular areas. As I'm trying to tell to you, all of these, all the things, or all the concepts, whichever I'm trying to explain, right through the concepts, if you are attentive and taking down points, I mean, you're winning on the chapter. The chapter primarily, what happens is, we are dividing it into different levels. We have just gone into level number 1 of what is living. That is level number 1. So what is in tune for the next class? Primarily, when you take in on your sort of a next class, you understand that in the next class, what happens is, we'll be dealing with the next level. That is, you will be understanding what is meant by systematics. You will be understanding what is meant by nomenclature. And also, we'll also be touching upon what is meant by classification, and what do you understand by binomial nomenclature. So it's easy. I mean, you just take it on at the basic level. Though, I mean, you might primarily pass off the chapter number 1 as a sort of a chapter from which nothing can ever come. But what is the theme with relation to which I'm trying to tell you is, chapter number 1 is connected to all the 36 chapters. It is connected. It is connected to molecular biology. It is connected to genetics. It is connected to evolution. It is connected to metabolism. It is connected to growth. It is connected to reproduction. It is connected to biomolecules. It is connected to diversity. Like right on in the introduction part of Living World, what are they trying to say? That they are trying to say that it's very difficult to define life because of diversity. We have a wide range of diversity. If you take the Western Ghats, if you take the Himalayas, if you take the oceans, we have marine biology. And we have a lot of tropical rainforests. We have got the deserts. And we've got so many things. And always what happens is, there's a lot of, there's a lot of dynamics about ecology down there. A lot of dynamics in the sort of a biosphere. So under these sort of dynamics, how can we primarily think in terms of something is common and something is different? So what is the basic theme of chapter number 1? We come now to what is called the basic theme after learning the chapter. After learning a part of the chapter, the basic theme is, there is always unity in diversity. There is unity in diversity. What do you mean by unity in diversity? We have the 7 characters. We have the 3 defining characters. That's all. Simple as that. So what does the chapter number 1 say? That there is always unity in diversity. Remember that. There's always unity in diversity, despite the fact that we have got about some 1.7 to 1.8 million, 1.7 to 1.8 million of living organisms. What happens is they share common things. What are the 7 characters? I just told you here, we have it here: order, evolution, adaptation, response to external stimuli, regulation, energy processing, growth and development, and reproduction of the 7 characters. And also, we also have the 3 defining characters. We also have the 3 defining characters. So fine, I mean, I think we are right on time, right on dot. And I'm trying to see that your learning curve improves. And you have to put in your effort primarily. You got to, you got to primarily keep on your reading track and classes. I want the classes to be more interactive so that you can ask questions. Questions related to the sort of a topic, anytime, any place. Fine. So I'm just signing off now. Let's catch up in the next class. Thank you.